More than 30 law enforcement agencies in Minnesota have pulled out of schools over concerns with the new state law. The agencies say the law regarding use of force leaves them open to potential lawsuits for school resource officers. Someone who knows well what it's like to be a school resource officer is the head coach of the Minneapolis North Community High School football team. Charles Adams III was a school resource officer at North High until after the murder of George Floyd. That's when Minneapolis police were taken out of schools. Adams has just written his memoir. It's called Twin Cities: My Life as a Black Cop and a Championship Coach. And Charles Adams joins us right now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, it's an incredible book for so many reasons. I do want to start with the fact that you got kicked out of being an SRO at the schools when they all did in Minneapolis and St. Paul. You now, when you write in your book, you blame yourself for incidents that have happened in or near the school in the years since, including the tragic murder of 15-year-old Deshaun Hill, a star quarterback in your football team. Why do you blame yourself?
So I don't necessarily, obviously I don't blame myself for the act of what happened, but I feel that me not being there, it probably wouldn't have happened. And that's where I take the blame. And everybody in the community knows that that day, I probably wouldn't have let any kid leave the building, especially a kid that plays football. So that's where I take the blame at. And only more just because I'm able to identify that there's bad things going on outside those doors, and if I'm there, my job is to keep those kids safe. Okay.
And that's what you did. You were in there every day, as all the school resource officers are, talking to the kids, and obviously you knew them as well in football. So you personally would like to be back. There's a lot of talk about SROs. Minneapolis doesn't have SROs right now. Neither does St. Paul. You'd like to be back in the school.
Absolutely. And I tell I'm working for a great organization, the Minnesota Twins. But
that's right. I should say you lost your job with the Minneapolis schools, and very quickly you had a very good job offer, which you hold to this day, Director of Security for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So a great opportunity.
Right, but you'd still like to be back in there.
If I would have been a SRO and given the opportunity to work for the Twins, I would have remained an SRO.
Okay, but you're still the North High football coach, and record 2-1.
Yes.
One of the things that your books goes into is the Minneapolis riots and the aftermath of George Floyd's murder. You were actually in the worst part of the riots on the worst night, the night of the burning of the 3rd precinct, at a pawn shop where a body was later found, somebody died.
Yes.
Describe what that's like, because you say it's the one time on your years in the force that you thought you might not make it home.
Yeah, probably the worst thing I ever experienced as a police officer. And it's a lot of things that I've seen. And having the feeling of not knowing if you'll make it home. And I did a very poor job of communicating to my family. I did it on purpose because I was stubborn. But
well, they should read the book, because it's a frightening. It's very well written, but it's very, very scary what you went through.
I honestly, I felt that I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't make it back home that day, and I couldn't understand, why we were there for a bunch of different reasons, but. It was probably one of the worst things I ever went through, and I was knee deep in the middle of it.
And as I said, it's all in the book. Also in the book, you actually knew Derek Chauvin through being a police officer. He was a police officer with you, and you write his personality, but also the training or lack of proper training at the Minneapolis Police Department factored into what he did.
Absolutely, and like I said in the book, control. More of just controlling. The more that you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it. And it just was just a lack of training, just a lack of, people doing the things the right way.
Right. And also you write about his personal awkwardness, his difficulty dealing with people, yet he was put in a position of being a field supervisor, a training officer, despite 17 complaints against him. Yeah.
There's a lot of situations like that where it's just guys are thrown into it and say, hey, you train this guy, with really no training or really no desire to do it, just saying, hey, you ride with this cop for today. So
All right, I did pick up a glimmer of hope in your book. Your father is very well known in the community. He's Charlie Adams, the inspector of the 4th Precinct in North Minneapolis. He's been in countless stories here, as have you. You write that your father has not gotten any excessive force complaints in a while, in some time. That's good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what's going on there?
Well, it's a change. It's a change going on within the police department, but a lot of it is just, now cops are actually communicating with people instead of just being authoritative figures and actually putting themselves in the community to kind of to better police. And
well,
I think
that's good.
I think that's great.
Okay. Well, the book, again, the title is Twin Cities: My Life as a Black Cop and a Championship Football Coach, which you are with North High. Anywhere books are sold, if the bookstore doesn't have it, you can ask for it.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Coach Adams, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.